Celebrate the season at Lloyd's Center with extended holiday hours, valet parking, and the newly opened Toys R Us. At Lloyd's Center, the very merry center of it all.
You're watching Coin TV, Channel 6. It was like walking into another world or entering the wreck of the Titanic.
This is the main control room.
Это главный контрольный рум, комната?
Yes.
This is where the worst engineering disaster of the 20th century began during a routine test of the reactor at low power. It's cold and sterile as a morgue now. The only sound, your own footsteps and breathing, and the ever-present chatter of the Geiger counter.
It's opening night on Broadway. Not just another opening night, but the opening night of Jerome Kern's and Oscar Hammerstein's, and tonight, Hal Prince's Showboat. They've come to the Gershwin Theater, New York's first nighters, to see if Hal Prince has done it again with yet another bit of theatrical make-believe.
Only make-believe, I love you.
You feel like the Prince of Broadway?
I guess, yeah. Why lie? Sure.
This man, 65 years old, helped his 88-year-old father to commit suicide. Actively helped him. He broke the law. Whether he goes to prison or not, he says, if he had it to do all over again, he would.
If your dad were to ask you now again to do it, you would?
100%, 100%.
I'm Mike Wallace.
I'm Morley Safer.
I'm Ed Bradley.
I'm Steve Proft.
I'm Leslie Stahl. Those stories and Andy Rooney tonight on 60 Minutes.
Through the years, the mothers of America have had a kind of medical training.
Next.
They've learned from countless doctors and pharmacists that the way to take care of a cough is with Robitussin. And now at home, the mothers of America are putting this advice to work.
Next.
Robitussin, recommended by Dr. Mom. Which Robitussin is right for you? Ask your doctor or pharmacist. And for your little patient, try Robitussin Pediatric Cough and Cold Formulas.
Your new Mercedes E-Class. What will it see in its long, long life? Will it see the government finally balance the budget? Will it see hologram billboards projected in the sky? Will it see the cure for disease? Will it see Woodstock 3 hosted by Tony Bennett? And will it see the end of the 14-year-old baseball strike? Well, one thing's for sure, you'll have a nice shiny car to take your grandkids to the ballpark.
Billions of dollars worth of mission-critical computing is threatened. Who do people call?
It's called the sarcophagus, and it is almost certainly the most dangerous building in the world. Literally, the word means crypt or tomb. In this case, a steel and concrete encasement constructed over the smoldering ruins of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant following the worst nuclear accident in history. But the term sarcophagus is misleading. What's buried in this tomb is not only very much alive, but still dangerous enough to demand the attention of science for perhaps as long as man is on the planet. If you think the Chernobyl disaster is history, come with us to the Forbidden Zone. It's a 20-mile stretch of no man's land. No one lives here anymore. The people who did were evacuated, and the radiation levels are too high for them to ever come back. At the center of the Forbidden Zone, ground zero, is the sarcophagus, a 24-story monument to one horrible mistake. It was never intended to be anything more than a stopgap measure, a temporary solution to a problem that generations of Ukrainians would have to deal with. That's because inside the sarcophagus, amidst the twisted steel and broken concrete, there's still 180 tons of melted nuclear fuel that will be deadly for hundreds of thousands of years.
Please
When a huge explosion blew the roof and part of a wall from reactor number 4 on April 26, 1986, 95% of the fuel remained exposed to the atmosphere, emitting a field of radiation deadly enough to kill, even with a few minutes exposure. So in the months that followed, scientists and engineers began one of the most complicated engineering jobs of this or any other century. Using remote-control bulldozers and cranes and construction workers working just long enough to complete one weld, they constructed a steel and concrete cover right on top of the destroyed reactor. Over 250,000 people involved in the cleanup received a lifetime's dose of radiation. The work was completed in 4 months' time, and the sarcophagus turned over to a lonely and eccentric group of scientists and engineers, some of whom have continued to risk their lives on a regular basis for the past 8 years.
We observe the sarcophagus in almost exactly the same way a doctor watches a patient.
Dr. Alexander Borovoy leads the scientific team. Like the others, he was recruited in the hours and days following the accident from the ranks of the Soviet Union's technological elite. He is a physicist, but when he arrived at Chernobyl, he was told they needed experts on nuclear reactors.
I told them, the experts on nuclear reactors have done all they could. They organized the Chernobyl catastrophe. What you need now are physicists.
They needed physicists to answer some very important questions. The nuclear genie had been put back in the bottle, but no one knew what was going on inside. Where was the nuclear fuel? What kind of condition was it in? Was it capable of producing another explosion? There was only one way to find out. Someone had to go inside and have a look. That job fell to a group called the Stalkers. Alexander Melnikov was a mining engineer with the Soviet Army when he was pressed into service at Chernobyl. The trick to staying alive inside the sarcophagus, he says, is not to stick around too long.
The best protection from radiation is the time. To be quick, that's all. To not be in a hurry, but be quick.
And to know where you're going.
Of course, yes. And to know the, we called it the geography of the unit. To know the geography of the unit very well.
The Stalker's job was to break through the twisted debris in the reactor and create passageways for the scientists who were to follow. Wearing a minimum of protective clothing to facilitate speed, they worked in teams and planned their moves like mountaineers scaling a peak. The first group, radiation scouts, charted the course, then came back. A second team would follow their path and advance further. And finally, a third or a fourth team would move on to the day's objective, which might be nothing more than picking up a spent fuel rod with crude makeshift tools. It took them 18 months just to reach the reactor vessel and to break through its walls. And when they finally did, they found it empty. It would take another year of exploration, sometimes using a toy tank mounted with a camera and Geiger counter, to locate the fuel in the floors immediately below the reactor. It had melted and crystallized into huge, colorful, and deadly blobs the scientists dubbed Chernobylite.
The color is so unique and bright. It's black like anthracite, and it looks like a frozen black shiny waterfall. It's really special.
Edward Pazukin, a chemist and a radiation safety expert, is an example of the strange culture that has grown up around the sarcophagus and the hold it has on the scientists and engineers who work there.
It's like an addictive drug. You can't imagine how beautiful it is inside there. It sounds like a paradox, but it really is true. It's probably like the feeling that your astronauts might have experienced while they were walking on the moon. You're seeing things that nobody has ever seen before, and this makes you feel very special.
When the scientists and stalkers first went into the sarcophagus in 1986, no part of the building was safe. Today, there are still rooms where even the stalkers refuse to go. But the radiation levels have diminished, and the building is much more accessible. Sprinklers have been installed to help neutralize more than 10 tons of radioactive dust. and more than 70 monitoring devices have been set up to constantly watch for any changes in the nuclear fuel. After doing a lot of checking, it seemed safe enough for us to want to go inside and have a look for ourselves. And to our surprise, our Ukrainian hosts agreed. We were given 2 layers of special protective clothing, special shoes and gloves, and a special escort, Arthur Karnaev, who is more or less the building superintendent for the sarcophagus, in charge of maintenance and repairs.
There it is, huh? Some work is being done to paint the sarcophagus now. This is the work within the framework of the stabilization program. We fortify in construction, which we might have some doubts about.
Right now, what kind of a reading are we getting?
Well, it's getting up to 2.
So high, but not particularly dangerous.
Not now. I mean, we're not going to be here very long.
Karnaev told us to be on the safe side. We should be out of the building in 30 to 40 minutes. And we were being taken only to the cleanest parts, through safe corridors and into rooms that had been carefully decontaminated. We were told by Western experts that a cotton mask was a necessity, a precaution against breathing radioactive dust. Karnaev, who has spent more time in the sarcophagus than anyone else, no longer bothers.
It's being dismantled.
We're actually in the sarcophagus now.
Мы сейчас физически находимся в саркофаге. Yes, we are.
It was like walking into another world or entering the wreck of the Titanic. The only sound, your own footsteps and breathing, and the ever-present chatter of the Geiger counter. There were walls and walls of rusty dials and gauges that must have gone haywire that April morning in 1986. They're frozen now in the moment of disaster. It took us 15 minutes just to reach our destination.
This is the main control room?
Это главная контрольная комната.